Okay, picture this. You're out in the field gathering environmental DNA samples from soil, water, maybe even just the air. When you actually sequence that DNA, you routinely uncover thousands of these tiny, baffling mysteries. I'm talking about unique fragments of genetic code that just completely fail to match any known species on Earth. Well, welcome to the mind-boggling world of dark fungi. Right now, biologists estimate that somewhere between 2 and 12 million species of fungi are still completely undiscovered. They are literally the biological equivalent of dark matter. They're all around us, everywhere, yet somehow entirely eluding our discovery.
All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are going to fundamentally reframe pretty much everything you thought you knew about the fungal kingdom. Especially for the biology students watching, you're about to see how this entirely hidden world challenges our core assumptions about evolution, ecology, and really the absolute limits of life itself. Here's our syllabus for today. We're going to unravel the dark fungi mystery, see why they are actually more animal than plant, map out their underground alliances, and then we'll get into chemical warfare, radiation-eating extremophiles, and how they're actively saving our climate. It's going to be a wild ride.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, the dark fungi mystery, unmasking the unknown. You know those 2 to 12 million undiscovered species we were just talking about? Yeah, they belong to this massive category of cryptic organisms that we call dark fungi. The crazy thing is, their physical structures have never actually been seen by the human eye. Why? Well, it's highly likely they're either completely microscopic or they spend their entire life cycles perfectly hidden away inside the cells of other species. They are quite literally hiding in plain sight, but our traditional methods of observation just haven't been able to capture them. And honestly, the sheer mind-bending diversity of the fungal kingdom is exactly why it has historically defied all of our neat biological assumptions. I mean, on one end of the spectrum, you've got single-celled baker's yeast that makes our bread rise. You've got the fleshy, edible mushrooms sitting in our grocery stores. You have these invisible, cryptic, dark fungi. And yep, you even have the parasitic fungi responsible for stuff like foot infections. It is a wildly varied kingdom spanning just unbelievable morphological differences. Which brings us right to our second section, animals, not plants, the biological paradigm shift. For centuries, early biologists just sort of automatically grouped fungi with plants because, they grow out of the ground from branching, root-like networks. But as biology students, I need you to do me a favor and just toss those old textbook diagrams out the window right now. Look at the stark cellular divergence here. Plants are autotrophs, right? They harness energy from the sun and build their cell walls with cellulose. But fungi? Fungi are heterotrophs. They eat by actively decomposing matter or siphoning nutrients. And here is the absolutely crucial part. Fungal cell walls are made of chitin. That is the exact same tough material found in the exoskeletons of insects, like beetles, and crustaceans, like shrimp. No plants use chitin. Because of these cellular similarities, modern genetic sequencing has confirmed something incredible. Fungi are actually much more closely related to animals than they ever were to plants. If we trace the phylogenetic tree back, roughly 1 billion years ago, fungi and animals shared a common ancestor. They eventually diverged, obviously, but they maintained these deeply intertwined evolutionary histories, later playing a pivotal role around 470 million years ago in helping primitive plants actually colonize the harsh, rocky landscape of early Earth. So let's take a closer look at that ancient partnership in Section 3, the Root System Alliance, colonizing the Earth. Over millions of years, fungi established these brilliant ecological roles, specifically intertwining themselves with plant roots to form what we call mycorrhizal networks. Let's break down the mechanics of 2 major guilds here. First up, you have ectomycorrhizal fungi. These guys physically envelop the outer layers of plant roots, kind of acting like a secondary, super efficient root system that forages for really tough-to-reach phosphorus and nitrogen, and then they trade it to the plant in exchange for carbon. Then you have arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. These are even more aggressive. They actually puncture the plant root cells directly, inserting themselves like microscopic straws to facilitate a highly efficient, direct cellular exchange of nutrients. To put it simply, without these specialized fungal digestion systems out there foraging in the soil, terrestrial plant life as we know it simply would not exist. When plants first moved onto land 470 million years ago, the ground was just barren rock. Plant roots alone weren't going to cut it. It was this underground fungal alliance that literally terraformed our planet, allowing early flora to survive and ultimately thrive. Now, from ancient life-giving alliances, let's pivot to something a whole lot more sinister in Section 4, chemical warfare and mind control, the predators. So, not all fungi are these helpful, friendly partners. Many have evolved remarkable and frankly terrifying strategies to defend against, exploit, or just entirely manipulate their neighbors. Just look at their chemical arsenal. We all know about antibiotics like penicillin and, of course, deadly toxins. But they also produce psychedelics. A lot of mushrooms produce psilocybin, which is a molecule perfectly shaped to bind to serotonin receptors in animal brains. While humans experience this as hallucinogenic, from an evolutionary standpoint, this was most likely a highly sophisticated chemical defense meant to scramble the brains of hungry slugs or snails and deter them from eating the fungi. And they don't just use chemicals to deter animals, they actively use them to exploit animal behavior. Take a look at Clathrus archery, perfectly nicknamed devil's fingers. This red, tentacle-looking mushroom doesn't just wait around for the wind to spread its spores. Instead, it emits this sticky slime called gleba that reeks exactly like rotting flesh. It chemically tricks necrophagic flies into landing, feeding, and then unknowingly carrying the fungus's spores away on their little bodies. But if we're talking about animal exploitation, nothing, and I mean nothing, beats the cordyceps fungus. When it infects an ant, it initiates just a horrific biological takeover. First, it chemically hijacks the insect's nervous system using localized toxins. Then, it physically grows into the host, connecting directly to the ant's muscle fibers. Let that sink in. The fungus is literally puppeteering the ant's movements from the inside out, completely bypassing its brain. It compels the zombie ant to climb up to a high vantage point, clamp its jaws onto a leaf, and die. Also, the fungus can burst from its head and rain millions of spores down onto the rest of the colony below. As if zombie mind control wasn't wild enough, Section 5 brings us to environments where absolutely nothing else can survive. Eating radiation for breakfast, the extremophiles. Get this, inside the walls of the ruined Chernobyl nuclear power plant, literally one of the most dangerously radioactive environments on the face of the Earth, researchers have found life. Specifically, they've observed at least 37 species of extremophile fungi just thriving in the wasteland. How is that even possible? Well, just like humans and other animals use melanin to protect our skin from UV radiation, these fungi are exceptionally rich in this exact same pigment. They use it to absorb harmful ionizing radiation, creating a kind of cellular shield that protects their fragile DNA from being completely shredded. But wait, it gets crazier. They aren't just wearing radiation armor, some of them are actually eating it. Studies conducted on the International Space Station involving a species called Cryptococcus neoformans revealed a mind-blowing metabolic strategy. This fungus can take absorbed gamma radiation and actually convert it into usable chemical energy for growth. This process, known as radiotrophic metabolism, completely rewrites what we thought were the absolute biological limits of life in the universe. All right, let's zoom way out from the microscopic scale for our final section. Section 6, Saving the Climate, the planetary scale. We are honestly just beginning to grasp the sheer planet-wide impact of this incredibly complex kingdom. Up in the freezing Arctic tundra, vast underground fungal networks are working overtime. They aren't just helping the local plant life survive those punishing winters, they're acting as a massive biological vault, quietly pulling in and stockpiling gigantic amounts of atmospheric carbon deep within the frozen soil. To really wrap your head around the scale of this, just look at these numbers. We always hear about the Amazon rainforest acting as the lungs of the earth, right? And it stores an impressive 100 billion metric tons of carbon. But look at the true hidden power beneath our feet. Global fungal networks, along with the plants they support, are estimated to sequester an astonishing 1 trillion metric tons of carbon. That is 10 times more than the entire Amazon rainforest. These invisible biological networks are practically the primary force keeping our Earth resilient against runaway climate change. So from shaping the entire evolution of terrestrial life, to waging chemical warfare, to literally eating gamma radiation, to holding our global climate in balance, the fungal kingdom is vast, it's wild, and it is incredibly alien. And remember, we still have up to 12 million species left to discover. As biology students, the most exciting part isn't just what we've learned today. It's wondering, what other unimaginable biological superpowers are growing just beyond our view, waiting in the dark to be discovered? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you